The GTA is real estate crazy. Are we still real estate crazy?
Still pretty crazy.
Look who we back with us. Prett Banerjee, of course, personal finance expert as well as car racing coach to Chris. This is the thing that is unbelievable because we're told that it's going to burst any time now. Condos first, then houses, and then the third best July for sales on record, says the Toronto Real Estate Board. What's going on?
Yeah, month to month, there's always an article. There's pros, there's cons, but for the last 6 to 10 years, people have been pretty bearish on real estate in Toronto and the condo market, and they haven't been right yet. Right, so everyone's sort of saying, well, it's going to happen, but we can't time exactly when it is going to happen. But if you take a look at a lot of the fundamentals, the main one I look at is incomes have been stagnant and house prices have been going up. And that's been a function of decreasing interest rates. So when you walk into a bank and say, you can have a mortgage of $300,000, you're going to get the $300,000 mortgage. Interest rates go down. Your income hasn't changed, but now say, well, you can get $450,000. People go out and buy a $450,000 home.
But is it going to change in August? Because we say the third best July because of the fact they tightened the mortgage rules, so people didn't buy for a while. They started saving, and then they've got that extra money for deposits. So is this a false figure? Are we going to see a correction in August?
A couple of factors. So last year there was a tightening of lending rules, right? So that froze out a couple of percentage of the buyers out there. They've now had a year to save up for bigger down payments. Now they're re-entering the market. Mortgage interest rates have gone up a little bit in the last 6 weeks, and so people who had those 90-day rate holds, the pre-approval, saying, well, I don't want to lose out on this low rate, let's get into the market now. So there's some pent-up demand that you see into the market right now.
Prett, don't you find, though, it's impossible to talk about the real estate market now as a whole, because you almost have to do it in pieces. When we were looking for a home 3 years ago, everything between $400,000 to about $600,000-700,000, you were getting lineups out the door. I mean, bidding wars, exactly. Now, if you're talking about the condo market, it's a little bit different. If you're talking about high-end homes, they were sitting on the market a little longer.
Right.
So I guess you have to give different advice depending on what you're looking for.
Absolutely, because it sort of gets compartmentalized. Like Toronto and Vancouver represent all of Canada. Well, that's not even close to the real story. I just spent a week in New Brunswick, and I was looking at houses that would sell for $3 to $5 million here, like $200,000, oceanfront property. You've got a berth for your own boat and whatnot. And
it's a long commute, though.
It is a very long commute.
Saving money for the flights.
Maybe the people think about buying cottage in Muskoka should look at New Brunswick. But
what would you recommend then to people looking right now for a home in Toronto? And does it come down to adjusting your standards, essentially?
Okay. Well, I can tell you what I'm doing as maybe a market for other people, but my girlfriend and I, we have a house in Ajax. Just sold that, and we're moving into Toronto. She took a promotion, and she's going to be required to be living closer into the city. And we've decided that we're going to rent. For us, it's a no-brainer. When we took a look at what it would cost to finance a house versus what we're paying in rent, we don't have the condo fees to pay for and whatnot. It's much cheaper for us to rent. So for me, I mean, it's crystal clear that I don't want to recommend market timing. This was opportunistic because, we had to sell the house and we're deciding to rent.
I'm feeling good because we did exactly the same thing at our house. So we're now renting and waiting to see, going to ride out the market. But we're going to be a real estate agent's worst friend right here because we're saying rent. But in fact, are there still deals out there?
There are still deals out there. And what I would say for people, I'm not saying everyone should rent. If you're in a house right now saying, oh, should we sell to take advantage of a potential top of the market? I'm not saying that you should do that. You should not be a real estate investor if you're not a real estate investor. I would say that if you're realistically looking to get into the market and a hard minimum of 5 years and ideally 10 years you're going to be in the same place, go ahead, look for the deals, but don't be too scared about it.
Sorry, we love it here.
Yes.
But are the days of flipping houses over, where you can make fast money?
Not yet. I mean, again, there are deals. There are pockets where there are deals. Certainly, if you look downtown, a lot of the condos, there's very low inventory in terms of rental units. But there are people who bought from developers and they can't sell some of those really high-end luxury condos. And they're actually being forced to rent them out because they can't find buyers. So again, the market is very segmented. It's very different. So you have to look.
Now, I wanted to ask you, how long should you rent for? I mean, I guess it depends on what's ideal for you, but a lot of people, common wisdom is that, if I'm renting, then that's just money down the drain I'll never get back.
Right. Now, I will say that if you buy today saying, I don't want to rent because I'm throwing money away, and the value of your property goes down, well, then you've lost potentially $100,000. So there's two sides to that coin. That analysis assumes real estate only goes up in a straight line. It doesn't. So what I would say is that you should crunch the numbers for yourself. So when you do have a mortgage, you are increasing the equity into that property, so you're building up your net worth. That's forced savings, and for a lot of people who rent thinking that this is cheaper, if you don't save the difference, you're no better off. right? So there is more to it than just that.
Pay yourself first is always a rule I always do, number one. Number two, when you think about this, when you're renting versus owning a condo, condo fees are up there close to $1,000 now. Now, that's not a huge condo when you put $1,000, but it's if you add a mortgage and then the condo fees versus getting the same in rent, you can you put the money instead of paying the mortgage, not the mortgage, the maintenance fee, and put that in the bank.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's that forced savings. You're not making $1,000 a month on your condo.
Yeah, it's just not a simple analysis because a lot of homeowners, they don't factor in that they should put aside some money for their own maintenance. So they don't have a condo corp saying, here are the maintenance fees per month, but that roof is going to cost 10 grand or whatever, and you have to budget for that.
Exactly.
Now, let me ask you, maybe I'm giving too much of a disclaimer on this, but how gloomy is the condo market right now? I was driving into downtown, and I counted 10 unfinished buildings within, I swear, 10 seconds of me driving. And I thought, who's going to live here? So is the projection positive or is it murky?
No, I mean, again, if you look at domestic experts and economists, they're somewhat bearish. If you look outside, even third party like The Economist magazine, the International Monetary Fund, they're all saying, listen, what's going on in Toronto looks pretty scary. It looks pretty much like what happened in the States, what happened in Europe with respect to real estate downturn. So you have to be careful about it. But again, I mean, all those unfinished condo projects, all those units that will be completed and realistically, no transit plan yet, and transit is already pretty bad. I mean, these factors in the next couple of years, it doesn't look that rosy.
But we've been saying that for years. So
exactly.
Again, that's the unpredictability aspect.
And that's what I was going to add, is that we have not seen in Toronto real estate really go down below the value that you bought it for.
Yeah, now the other thing to keep in mind is that the percentage of people's income allocated to housing keeps going up and up and up. And at some point, it's going to reach a hard stop. Until incomes start to increase, this is not sustainable. It's just a matter of how it's going to correct. Is it going to be a smooth, soft landing, or is it going to be, maybe a scarier downturn? We don't know.
Yeah.
If you can't afford it, maybe think twice.
Good advice.
Yeah,
right.
Get some advice if you can't crunch the numbers yourself.
Prett Banerjee, always a pleasure. Thank you for your insight.